So it is 10:01 a.m. today, 21st of June. Thank you, everybody who is joining this session. The idea is to help to all you international students in this process. When you are abroad and you're thinking, I want to study, I want to go to the Faculty of Engineering in the University of Waterloo, what are all those steps that I need to take as an international student to come? This is a session to provide you support for you as an international student when you're thinking about taking a master or a PhD in the University of Waterloo in the Faculty of Engineering. So today we have Shannon Chung. She is an immigration consultant from the Student Success Office. It is important that you as an international student, when you're looking for this kind of advice, always look for an immigration consultant like Shannon, because they are the experts. They are the ones that really know how all this process works. Shannon will explain everything in detail today for all of you. We have Annette also in the chat, just to help us to answer any questions that you can have on the way. Iliana Sibeli from Renison University College will give us a little bit of information about what are the options when you don't have still the English requirements to apply. So of course she can help you as well with that. And I'm Maria Sandoval. I am the Marketing and Recruitment Specialist for Graduate Studies in the Faculty of Engineering. So why think about graduate studies? Of course, like to advance your engineering career, to create and develop research that really improves the world. Is not only like you're thinking about yourself, like think about all the impact that you can really make in the society by developing top research. It is designed to strengthen and expand upon the technical research and practical skills, and you will have, of course, more specialized knowledge and tools to work in some aspects of your field of interest. So in the future, when you're applying for jobs or when you want to develop your own business, of course, you will be more qualified because you just learn more. We are a top university, ranked number one as a research university in Canada. We have more than 150 plus major awards won by graduate students. So there are many options. We also have upcoming webinars talking about how you can finance your studies, how to find a supervisor, all this kind of information also will come. Something very unique from the university is that only at Waterloo, your ideas, your intellectual property, it is yours. It doesn't belong to the professor. It doesn't belong to the university. It belongs to you. So not only you are getting a title from a top engineering school in Canada that would be recognized in the world, but also you belong your own ideas. We have 6 departments. We are the largest engineering school in Canada. We have chemical engineering, civil environmental engineering, electrical and computer engineering, mechanical and mechatronics engineering, management sciences engineering, system designs engineering, and there are many programs. Also, I invite you to visit our graduates page where you can see specifically like all the programs that we have: Master of Engineering, Master of Applied Science, and the PhD. Also, we have 2 schools that are part of the Faculty of Engineering. It is Conrad School of Entrepreneurship and Business. This is very unique. And also we have the School of Marketing. There are different kind of programs that I was mentioning. So I invite you to please visit our graduate page to see. We have the Master of Engineering. Some of them, they have co-op opportunities. This is also very unique from the university. We have the Master of Applied Sciences. Those masters are research-based, so you need a supervisor for that. But because you need a supervisor, it is partially funded. Also, we have the Master of Management Sciences. There is a course-based program. We have as well graduate diplomas. Those are course-based programs, and we have the PhDs. In the schools, also we have the Master of Architecture and Conrad. They have the Master of Business, Entrepreneurship and Technology, and this is new. Something in the process. You will have to contact them to know the details. This is the PhD, and also in Business and Entrepreneurship.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Maria, for having me today. My name is Shannon. I am one of the immigration consultants at the University of Waterloo, and I will be delivering some high-level overview of immigration information that you will find useful, right, for applying for the University of Waterloo. Do note that information does change very, very, very frequently. Okay, so information as of today is accurate as of today, right? But it could change a month from now, a couple of days from now, or a couple of weeks from now, right? So let's just jump right in. Okay, so today we will be looking at who are the immigration consultants at the University of Waterloo. What do we do and what do we not do? What areas of immigration do we help with? What type of services, or when can you use our service, right? What are some immigration documents international students will need to study at the University of Waterloo? What are some general steps on how to apply for your initial study permit? And also tips on when to apply for your study permit. And lastly, just about the post-graduation work permit after you finish your studies here at the university. So who are we? We are a team of immigration consultants at the University of Waterloo. We do have about 6 immigration consultants here, which is normally above the normal university average, right, of about 2 to 3. We have about 6 of them to help you in your immigration needs here at the university. We are all regulated Canadian immigration consultants, and we are all licensed by the College of Immigration and Citizenship. So what do? We do provide advising services every weekday, right? From Monday to Friday, 10 a.m. all the way to 4 p.m., virtually, in person, by email, by phone. So whichever service you feel best suits your needs, right? Like, we can definitely do that. And we do provide information on information sessions about immigration, orientation. We do have a lot of information on our website. We do have YouTube videos guiding you step by step on the process of applying, as well as e-newsletters that come out every month, right, just to inform you of new immigration updates, right, like that may pertain to you. We also collaborate with campus partners and external partners, right, with the consent of students in the event that you do have any situation that is impacting your academic as well as immigration status. We can definitely work together to make sure everything is sorted out for you. So what do we not do? We don't actually represent any students, right? So we don't submit application submissions, but we do guide you on application submissions. We don't write explanation letters or submission letters or apply on your behalf of any redetermination, right? But if you do fall into any of these steps, right, like, we can definitely guide you on how to apply, right, or how to go about a redetermination. We just don't apply on your behalf. We also don't enforce the rules, right? So we just inform you of your options and the rules that apply to you, but we don't kind of enforce you to basically follow them. But it's more of, it's your case, your option, right? Like, here are all the rules and options that are available to you. We also don't report, right? So if, let's say, there's non-compliance, or you worked without authorization or studied without authorization, we don't report that to immigration, right? It is all up to the student, right, to make sure that for your next applications, right, like if you had, done any sort of non-compliance or studied without authorization, that it is disclosed in your application. So what are the areas of immigration that we help with, right? So we do go into a lot of immigration applications, right? So that would include your study permit, co-op work permits, post-grad work permits, any sort of open work permits, which may include your spouse's open work permit as well. Temporary resident visas, visitor visas also for your children if you do have some, temporary resident permits, your electronic travel authorization, amendments, change of conditions. There's a list of immigration applications that we do help with, but most of these are temporary resident applications. We do talk about compliance and conditions of a study permit holder, a work permit holder, a visitor, and we also inform you of the social insurance number which is needed to work in Canada, any sort of US B1, B2 visitor visa, right? And as well as we do inform information about Canadian permanent residency and everything that's non-immigration related, right? Which includes your driver's license, Ontario ID, UHIP, taxes, campus resources, we do refer you to. So when can you use our service? So this is a very important question, right? So as soon as you have accepted your offer and are matriculated into the University of Waterloo system, you can definitely connect with us immediately. Although we do not assist with initial study permit applications submitted from outside of Canada, this is mainly because it's country specific and there's very specific requirements per country. We can still assist with general questions that you may have related to your study permit application. So once you're approved to enter Canada and start your studies for all of your temporary resident immigration matters during your studies at the University of Waterloo, please do connect with us because we're here to help you. We're here to guide you through your whole program. Okay, and our services are also available for 2 extra terms after your final term to ensure that you're well on your way, right? Like ensuring that you get your work permit, ensure that you get your temporary resident visa, right, for the next, let's say, 3 years, right? And we're here for you for that. Okay, so now jumping into the identity and immigration documents that you will need as international students, right? So the first one is the most important, your passport. You must have an identity document, right? So Canadian immigration documents like your study permit or your co-op work permit or the postgrad work permit afterwards when you finish your studies will not be issued beyond your validity of your passport, right? So you have to make sure that your passport, right, is valid at the time of you applying for Canadian status documents, and it must be valid for at least 6 months, right? And then if you do end up getting your study permit that's only valid for 6 months, right, definitely you'll want to come to Canada and then extend your study permit. And just make sure that you do take electronic copies of your passport in the event that you may potentially lose your passport or it gets lost, right, like somewhere down the road, right, is that you do have a copy of it. If your passport does expire, right, shortly before the completion of your program, be sure to apply for a new passport or renew your passport as soon as you can. The next document is the temporary resident visa, right? This is an entry document. So do note the expiration of your temporary resident visa. You cannot enter Canada without a valid temporary resident visa if you are from a visa required country. This temporary resident visa is a sticker in your passport and it allows entry to Canada. It is separate from your study permit. So the study permit, when you apply outside of Canada, will automatically come with a temporary resident visa. So the study permit is a separate piece of paper allowing you to legally remain in Canada, whereas the temporary resident visa is the one that facilitates your entry to Canada, right? So if your temporary resident visa expires and you're in Canada, you can still remain in Canada as long as your study permit is valid. You should always have a valid temporary resident visa, though, in case of any emergency travels that may arise, and processing times do vary, right? And when you're applying from within Canada, you will first extend your status document, which is your study permit, and then extend your temporary resident visa after once your new study permit has been issued. So this is the electronic travel authorization, which is also an entry document. This is for those that are from visa exempt countries, right? So just to name a few, right, like Hong Kong, in Europe, right? Like those are some countries that are ETA required, right? So they will not get a temporary resident visa. So if you're from one of those countries that are visa exempt, when you apply for a study permit, it will also automatically come with an electronic travel authorization. And this electronic travel authorization will be linked to the passport that you applied for the study permit. And the electronic travel authorization is generally noted on the study permit approval letter. And if you do get a new passport, you will need to get a new electronic travel authorization. And again, we always suggest students to apply for one, and you must do so before your travels. The cost for this is just $7, and it's just applying through an online application through the IRCC website. And we generally recommend that you do apply at least 1 month before the travel date. And now jumping into your status document, the study permit. You must always have a valid study permit while studying in Canada, and be sure to note the expiration date of your study permit. And if it's necessary, plan to extend it before it expires. If you transferred from another institution or applied for your study permit using another institution's letter of acceptance or offer letter, you must notify IRCC of the change in designated learning institution. You are required to have a valid study permit until at least the completion of your studies, right? So this is when the university issues you your completion letter and your final transcripts, because a valid study permit is required for you to apply for your postgrad work permit. The study permit are typically also issued for an additional 90 days after your expected completion date so that you have time to prepare for your postgrad work permit application, right? So be sure to note the expiration date of your study permit when you do get it. And if you're unable to finish your program before the expiration date, be sure to extend it. And do check your conditions of your study permit. Sometimes there are conditions that restrict how often you can work or restrict working in Canada, right? So once you're in Canada, you've accepted your program at the University of Waterloo, we can definitely go through in details the conditions on your study permit. A co-op work permit is also a status document, right? So if you are accepted in a co-op program or a program that has a degree required work component and it isn't called co-op, somehow it's called internship, you will still require a co-op work permit. And you should apply for the co-op work permit together with your initial study permit application. And when it's approved, you should receive the co-op work permit and the study permit when you enter Canada at the airport. If you don't end up receiving your co-op work permit at the airport, you can simply apply for one online from within Canada. There is actually no fee for a co-op work permit, and you must have a co-op work permit before beginning your co-op term. And the co-op work permit itself is only used for degree required co-op approved work terms. Okay, so for any other work that is not co-op related, it will fall under your study permit, and your study permit does have to have work conditions. And your co-op work permit will expire at the same time as your study permit. So if it's necessary, right, you can apply for both the extension of your study permit and co-op work permit together when you're in Canada. Okay, now jumping into the initial study permit application and some tips that you'll need, right, like when you start your application outside Canada. So we will go through a high-level overview of the required documents, right? So all study permit applications, initial applications from outside of Canada will require your official offer of admissions and the letter of acceptance from the University of Waterloo. This can be downloaded from Quest, right? And you will need also a valid passport or travel document issued from your country of citizenship. And if it's possible to obtain a passport that is valid for the entire duration of your study in Canada, that would be advisable. But if it can't, right, be sure to apply for an extension, right, and a renewal of your passport as soon as you can. You will also have to provide evidence of sufficient funds, right? So you must provide proof that you have enough funds and money, right, for the tuition fee for the first year of study and living expenses. And if applicable, you must also show evidence that you can financially support any accompanying family members, right? So if you're applying for a study permit and let's say a work permit for your spouse and you do have children and you're applying for the study permits for your children or visitor records for your children, right, then you will have to make sure that you meet the minimum proof of funds, right, for all of your accompanying family members. You will also need a passport-sized photo of yourself that meets the IRCC specifications. This is normally just a passport-like photo, right, with white background and neutral facial expression. You will also need a study plan, and we will go into a little bit more details in the next slide about what a study plan is, right? It normally is a statement of purpose. You will also need to do biometrics, right? Once the biometrics instruction letter appears in your online account, which is after you submit your application, and if you have given your biometrics in the past, they are valid for 10 years. And if you are a US citizen or a national that is not required to give biometrics, then you won't need to do biometrics. So these are some other documents that you will need based on your country of citizenship, right? So if you are living in a designated country, you will need to provide a proof of an immigration medical exam. An immigration medical exam is valid for 12 months. You may also require police certificates, right? So this is all country specific, like I said. Okay, and then proof of payment of tuition payment, right? So if you're required to show, that you've paid for tuition, right, for let's say the whole year, right, then you can use the tuition fee estimator, and the estimator will email you a PDF copy with the approximate amount of your total costs and instructions on how to pay for your tuition in advance. So after you have accepted your offer of admissions, your payment has arrived. This is usually about 7 to 10 business days. You can log into your Quest account and access an official tuition receipt to include for your study permit application. And lastly, right, like there will be document requested by visa office based on individual circumstances. So here is a QR code, right, like where you can take a picture of it, right, and it will direct you to country-specific documents that may be required, okay? But generally, when you're applying online and you go through the eligibility questionnaire, right, the document checklist that's populated is generally country specific. Okay, so you can basically go through that online application, right, and make sure that you compile all the documents required for that document checklist. And here we will be jumping into the student direct stream, right? So what we kind of talked about before was just for a regular study permit application, not the student direct stream, right? So you may be eligible to apply for a study permit through the student direct stream if you are living in one of the following countries, right? So there are just about, I believe, about a little bit more than 10 countries, right, like that are falling under the student direct stream, right? And you just have to have legal residence in that country that you are living in, right? And it has to be one of these countries, right? You don't have to have citizenship in one of these countries. It's just legal residence. And to apply for the student direct stream, there are additional requirements along with just the regular study permit application, right? But generally, applications through the stream are processed faster than the regular stream, right? And this application will require proof of payment of your first year tuition, proof of a GIC account, right? So guaranteed investment certificate, that's at least $10,000 Canadian, right? Proof of an upfront medical exam, as well as a qualifying language test result, right? So you will have to either get an IELTS test done, right? Or if you have CELPIP out there or CALE out there, right? Like there's a list of tests, right? But generally it's either IELTS, right? Or if you're doing a French test, right? There's the TEF French test. And now just looking at the study plan, right? So a study plan is the statement of purpose letter, right? So this will allow you to advocate for yourself. So it's more like an explanation letter where you tell your story, right? Like, why do you want to come to the University of Waterloo? What is your background? What is your education previously, right? And why does the study benefit you, right? It will allow you to clarify any gaps in information that may not have been covered in the documents that you've provided for your study permit application, right? So this is for you to advocate yourself to the officer, right? Like, why is it important, right? Like for you to study at the university, and why are you choosing University of Waterloo, right? And this will pre-exempt any likelihood that a case processing officer would determine that you're unlikely to leave Canada or abide by immigration regulations, right? So there's a lot of push factor, pull factor, right? Like that you will want to advocate for yourself when it comes to the study plan. So like I said earlier in this session, right, like although we do not review initial study permit applications completed from outside of Canada, just due to country-specific requirements, we do conduct immigration information sessions on the application process and can provide general advice, right, and answer any general questions that you may have pertaining to your initial application, right? So as soon as you accepted your offer and are matriculated into the University of Waterloo system, you can find and register register to many of our sessions through our portal, right? And that will also include a session that has on initial study permit applications. And now just lastly, just before I close off, right, like just some information about your postgrad work permit application, right? After you finish your studies at the University of Waterloo, right? So this postgrad work permit is an open work permit that would allow you to work for any employer anywhere in Canada, right? And you will apply for it after you complete your program. This work permit will allow you to gain Canadian work experience that assists in qualifying you for permanent residency. It is a once in a lifetime opportunity, right? And you can only be issued it once, right? So if you're looking at, let's say, pursuing a PhD studies at the University of Waterloo afterwards, right, we can go into that option for you, whether it's best to apply for this now or later, right? And just keep in mind, right, like for those that are looking to be eligible for this postgrad work permit, you must be full-time and continuous throughout your program, okay, with the exception of the last and final term, which can be part-time. Then just going to the length of your postgrad work permit, right? So if you're a master's student and your program is 12 months in length, so 3 terms, it may be issued for 12 months. And if you're accepted into a program that's at least 16 to 24 months in length, so it takes 4 or more terms to complete your program, right? Like your postgrad work permit may be issued for 3 years. And for students that are accepted into a 24-month and onwards program, right? So 2+ years, it will also be issued for 3 years. And just before I close off, right, like I just want to refer all of you to our website, right? Because our website does have a lot of information and resources for international students that can guide you through how to apply, right? And then what to make note of, right? Especially if you're looking to work in Canada and anything afterwards, right? So there's a lot of resources on our website to get you started, right? And again, once you're accepted your program at the University of Waterloo, do connect with us, right? Like we can definitely get you started, right, on what to know, right, and what are the policies and regulations that you will need to follow. Okay, so I guess I'll bring it back to you, Maria.
Perfect. Thank you. I just shared as well here in the chat the link that you were mentioning. I would like to highlight this information that Shannon provided at the beginning. The University of Waterloo is very unique, providing we have immigration consultants as Shannon available at the university. So it is something very unique from a university that you can really go, and there is no additional fees, right? If you go for their services, so they can help you with all the process once you're here, because now we're thinking, okay, I need to come, but once you're here, everything just starts. So you need all the support from the immigration consultants. So what about if you want to apply you're ready, you want to come and take a PhD, a master's degree in the Faculty of Engineering, University of Waterloo, but you don't have the English requirements yet. You tried maybe to get the test and the score that you need, but maybe you didn't get it, or you are not in that level yet. So here are some options. The Faculty of Engineering is highly competitive, so of course your English skills are very important. Ileana, you can introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about Renaissance University College.
Hello, everyone. I am Ileana Tapudi, and I work with Renaissance University College at the University of Waterloo. I am the International Experience and Recruitment Officer, so I support international students who are both looking to come to Waterloo for studies, that being degree studies or grad studies, as well as students looking to come just to learn English. The Renaissance University College has the English Language Institute at the University of Waterloo. So we offer both short-term programs and long-term and pathway programs. That's what we call it, which basically means you will do one of these programs to get into, if you are thinking of getting into a degree studies at the University of Waterloo. So EFAS, the one that you see here on screen, our English for Academic Success, is one of our pathway programs. So EFAS, it's really a unique program, and it offers more than just English language instruction in the conventional way that we're used to. Students who participate in EFAS not only improve their English language competence, but do so in an integrated and dynamic manner that really reflects what is truly needed to succeed in an academic and professional environment. So you will see that part of the name, it says academic success. So it is really focused on that part. And that's why it's one of our pathway programs as well. It's important also to know that the EFAS program is benchmarked to the Common European Framework of Reference for Languages, or CEFR, which is a global standard in English language proficiency. And just to give you an idea, the EFAS level 300, it's an equivalent to a high intermediate level, or B2, which I think we're most used to here in terms of levels of English. And then the EFAS level 400, it's an equivalent to an advanced level, or C1, which is what you need to come to Waterloo in terms of English requirements. Successful completion of EFAS level 400 satisfies the English language requirements for studies at the University of Waterloo. But on top of this, the completion, there is also a conditional admission possibility. And the University of Waterloo might offer conditional admission through EFAS to academically admissible applicants who are either applying under a government scholarship program that includes financial coverage for English language studies, or applying to a master's course-based program, which is probably your case if you're in this webinar, or also just applying to research, master's, or doctoral programs. But this will be considered on a case-by-case basis. The EFAS program also offers students a number of unique program features, including targeted support for graduate students and prospective graduate students. So this is a great program for all of you who are thinking of coming to Waterloo for our master's degree. Supports include, for example, assistance with graduate admission applications. We also have check-in meetings with an EFAS advisor, which is an academic advisor in this case. And we also have support with adapting to life in Canada. I know it can be a little bit challenging to get used to a different system of education and just a different culture and environment. So we do offer support on that. Of course, we provide writing at a graduate level, and also a number of informative workshops in areas such as self-directed learning strategies and how to use social media for professional networking, which are really important parts of your academic and professional life here. One thing that I do want to mention is that the completion of the EFAS program does not guarantee admission to the University of Waterloo graduate programs. So all admission decisions are made based on competitive academic admission requirements, as we have Maria already mentioned. And decisions are made by the department or program that you apply to. But as I was saying, if you do come to Renaissance to do EFAS 400, for example, which is a C1, and you pass the 400, that will be meeting your English requirement for your admission, but you will still need to fulfill all the requirements academically speaking.
So there you go.
If you have any questions, let me know.
This is a great support for you because many times we as an international student, even Ileana, myself, we came here in the past as an international students as well. So we understand that it can be hard to get the score. You have the pressure, but of course you have this option to improve your English skills in Renaissance University College, and you will be already here. So it is a perfect option. If you are interested in any of those programs, please visit the Renaissance University College website. They will be more than happy to help you. There are different websites created to solve many of your questions. If you see when you're asking the questions, we always send you the link. It's hard to find because the university is huge and there are many questions, but just the main source of information for you, it is the Graduate Future Students page. I will share my screen now to show you. Over there we have the guide. You can request more information. You can sign up. You can also, there are more information sessions on the way, so you can always subscribe for all of them. So here is the page. You can go here to graduate students. Over here you can find what are the programs, what kind of programs do we have, how long the application deadlines, the next intake that we have open, how to apply, all the departments, the programs by school, funding and scholarships available. And in this session especially, this is the section that you need to visit, the international students page. Over here you can find what are the admission requirements for international students, like a little bit special, like it is the same for everybody, but we as international students, we have to know the equivalence of our grades. So here you have the link. You can find the English requirements as well, and you can find the link for Renaissance University College. Here as well, for the study permit, you can find the link to visit the Student Success Office and the international student resources that you have available. Of course, I will check the questions now, but of course you have access to all those services once you are a Waterloo student. For now, we're just offering you these sessions to guide you, and with all these great information that Shannon provided to guide you in the process, but of course you have access to this until you are a Waterloo student. Here there are more resources for you, how to fund your studies, see all the previous sessions that we have, and a special session for international students. So here are all those resources. And here are the upcoming events and EFA sessions. Just please look to them. And also if you want to see other services that you have when you are a Waterloo student, also you can see all this information designed for you. One of the main questions as well is about how to find a research and supervisor. So just please visit the graduate students page where you can find all the information for graduate studies in the Faculty of Engineering. Visit the Student Success Office, the international student resources that you have available, and the English Language Institute to learn about the English for academic success. And find all the information. Okay, I will focus now in the questions related for Shannon. Does an Indian student with an undergrad degree from United States require IELTS? So there will be like two answers for this. number one for the Faculty of Engineering. Please visit the page that I just mentioned, the international page, and see the English requirements and see if your country is listed there as an exception. And if for your visa.
Yeah, so if you are applying from India, right, like let's say, you've relocated from the US back to India, right, and you're applying under the student direct stream, right, so the faster processing of that study permit, then you will need to do a language test. But if you're applying, let's say from the US, or let's say you just want to apply for a regular processing time of that study permit, then you won't need you won't need the language test.
We can help them now with the process to apply for a study permit. That was one of the questions that I don't find out.
I think because I went through the chat, right, and answered some of them. Yeah. So basically, I guess just to answer that a little bit more clearly, right, is that we do not assist with application reviews of the initial study permit application, right, because it's outside of Canada, very country specific, right? And each country have their own kind of like forms that they need to fill in. They may need family form, they may need police certificates, right? So a lot of the time students will need to deal with that on their own, right? But if you have general questions, right, like about your initial application, right? So it could be specific general questions, as in like, how do I get my 1 year tuition bill, right? Like, or can you look at my study plan letter, right? Like we can definitely do that for you, right? Just to ensure that you're on the right track, right? Or if somehow you ended up getting a refusal of your study permit, let us know, right? Like we can go through that refusal letter and see how you can do best, right? Like for your next reapplication, right? Like what other documents will you need, right? Like for your next application, right? So that's the support that we can give you, right? Like for your initial application.
So it starts even from the very beginning, and for sure, like just to have an immigration consultant, you cannot imagine how valuable is that. You're not alone in this process. How long it will take to get an answer once you apply for the study permit?
Yeah, like that one does vary from country to country, right? But during the pandemic, they have been issuing one processing time for all applicants from outside of Canada, right? So right now it is posted at about 8 weeks, right? But whether they follow that 8 weeks pattern is like, take it with a grain of salt, right? Like it's never really 8 weeks, right? But I've heard some countries, like sometimes in India, it took about a month, right? So that was very fast, right? And then same with China as well, right? So it really depends, but I would say ballpark, it is about 1 month all the way to about four to 6 months, right? Like that's the longest.
Yeah, that's why it is important that you have in mind, I'm going to share here, the deadlines to apply. Because, for example, if you want to start your studies now in spring 2024, then of course you need to apply in advance. Just having what just Shannon shared with us, like, is there any place where the international student can find all the requirements to apply for the study permit?
Study permit itself, it is like we normally tell students, like especially because you have to apply online, right, is just to go through the eligibility questionnaire, right? Because once you go through the eligibility questionnaire, it's going to ask you, where are you applying from, right? So that would normally be the country that you're residing from, right? And that would bring you to country specific documents, right? So although there is this, I can find, let me just get the link for that. That paper-based application, right? Like it does have resources on what's needed for a paper-based application, which is also country-specific, right? It sometimes would also apply to an online application. The link is in the chat now, right? For you to just find country-specific requirements for your study permit application.
It is also hard to find all this information, but it is there. Someone is asking us here, I have already taken the TOEFL test. Is it mandatory to take the IELTS for the immigration process?
Yep. So if you're applying for, again, the student direct stream, right? So it all depends on what program you're applying for, right? Like, is it the regular study permit or is it the student direct stream for the study permit, right? So if you fall under the student direct stream, then you will need a designated test, right? So that wouldn't be the TOEFL. Okay. TOEFL is normally just accepted for academic purposes, not immigration, right? So just be careful with that, right? But I did hear that some visa application centers are starting to accept other language requirements, right? But we still go by what's posted on the web, right? Like on the government website, right? Which is designated tests, right? So definitely get the IELTS, right? Or if you're doing a French test, right? Like the TEF test from outside Canada.
Hi there, Shannon. At what point can I change my study permit from course-based to thesis-based and from part-time to full-time?
Good question. Like basically you can change your program at any time, right? It's more just, will you need a study permit extension, right? And just keep in mind one thing that that may be an issue, right, is that if you're looking to be eligible for the postgrad work permit, right, like your program must be a full-time program, right? So if you're doing a course-based part-time program, then you won't be eligible for the postgrad work permit, right? So if you're looking to get that work permit or be eligible for that postgrad work permit, just make sure you're accepted into a full-time program and that you're enrolled full-time throughout the program, right? But if you're full-time and you switch from course-based to thesis or course-based to co-op, right, like that's completely fine as long as you're within the same institution, right? But if you're transferring from another master's program to University of Waterloo's master program, right, then it may be a little bit more, I guess, a little bit more steps that you have to take, right, depending on whether you have the work or the study permit approved yet or not yet. Okay, so that we can definitely dive into, right, once you're a student. Yep.
We hope to see you here so you can meet Shannon live. You can meet her at the university. Okay, about a little bit about funds. Here is a question, like, I will try to translate this question a little bit better. Like, if you, as an international student, you need to show that you have the funds, right, to stay in Canada and to pay your tuition. Is it enough just to show the scholarships or the funds that you're getting from the university, or do you need to provide additional funds?
Yeah, generally, if you are supported by funding, like through the university, right, and let's say your full funds covers your whole tuition, right, then definitely the funding is a big supporting evidence, right, like that you will have funds while you're studying, right? But on top of that, right, like the immigration officer will likely be looking at funds that you have readily available, right? So because university funding doesn't come, let's say the whole funding you get first day, right? Like it comes term by term, right? Is that those are not really funds that you have as of this time to support yourself for renting every month, right? So generally on top of funding, right, like we would tell students to have also funds that are readily available. So that would mean like funds that you have in your bank account, right? Like in your, let's say your parents or your financial supporters, they have that in their bank accounts, right? So those are additional funds that you should show on top of your funding requirements or your funding from the university.
Having a refugee travel document for my master's study in Italy, I would like to know if I can ask the study visa entry having 6 months before it expires.
I think that has to do with the study permit application, right? So
yes,
like generally, if you are claiming refugee status in, let's say in Italy, right, technically, I would suggest that you speak to like an immigration lawyer in Italy, right? Because that may, like if you apply for a permit or a temporary permit for a different country, it may cancel out your refugee status in that country, right? So you may want to just figure that out first, right? But in terms of the study permit application, as long as your travel document is valid, right, like at the time of you applying, technically it will be okay, even if it expires 6 months before, right? It just has to be valid at the time of applying. And you do have to enter Canada before it expires, right? And make sure you have a new travel document to ensure that you don't go out of status, right? Like while you're in Canada, right? So yeah, for your case specifically, I would definitely say speak to, your representative in Italy, right? Just to make sure there's no impacts to your refugee claim, right? Like in Italy, right? And then look towards the study permit in Canada.
For sure. And about the date, also, I think they need to keep in mind that the visa, if you get your visa here for Canada, it will not be longer than the date of your passport.
It'll be the same date as the expiration of the travel document.
So it's better if it's longer, so you don't have to make all the process again. But for now, I think we just can close the session. It was very helpful to know all the resources that you have when you're interested in applying in the Faculty of Engineering for Masters and PhDs. Thank you, Shannon, for your time, your advice, all those valuable tips when you're planning to apply for a study permit, and all the services that the university has available for all university students. And Ileana, I think that's great also for all of you to know that you have support in your English skills in case that you don't have that level, or maybe you just want to improve it because you're coming to one of the best universities in Canada, the University of Waterloo. So thank you very much, Shannon, Ileana, Annette, as well in the chat. Thank you so much for your time, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.